No more Dutch, I think.
Yeah, we're done with that now?
Yeah, 2 weeks of it is played.
It's all Dutch.
How do you do? We're about to unfold the story of
the Bride of Frankenstein.
She's alive! Alive!
A monster created from cadavers out of rifled graves. A tale that sent my blood into icy creeps.
Would you like to hear what happened after that?
Well, we've warned you.
You have been warned. Welcome back to Frankenstein Minute, the podcast that dissects the Universal Frankenstein film series minute by minute. I'm Thom Lang.
And I'm Bill Evenson. And we're going to talk about minute 18 of Universal's Bride of Frankenstein. It's from 1935 and it stars Boris Karloff.
Well, it stars Ernest Thesiger.
Yeah, that's true. Boris Karloff is not important.
We haven't seen Karloff in like 15 minutes.
It seems that way, doesn't it? It's been weeks.
It's been a long time.
Well, so this is what this movie's going to do. We're going to see a lot of this.
Yeah, it's going to happen a lot.
Where it's like, now it's this movie, then it's this movie, and then it's this movie, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about.
Well, that's also, I think, one of the things that works to its benefit because it moves fast.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't linger on any one sequence for
that's an interesting
quite a
point.
while.
Sure.
I mean, there's one in the middle of the film that's a little bit longer, but other than that, yeah, each little segment, each little mini film goes pretty quickly.
Yep, and that's where we get the minute by minute part. But if it was on Quibi, people won't remember what Quibi is. I'm sure it's already dead.
Quibi is.
I think it just started, but it's a new streaming thing. I don't know, where it's all 10-minute episodes. So they've got people you've heard of are making these little basically 10-minute TV shows. So each episode is 10 minutes.
So it's like YouTube.
I guess. I don't know.
I
don't see the point of any of it. But they're making a big deal out of it, and people will have seen it. But if this movie was on Quibi, you might think that they're not even related, really. Like that's like you said, the monster is not this. The movie we're watching right now doesn't have Boris Karloff.
Yeah. It's been on
and it's weird.
10,
It'll be weird
minutes.
In about 6 months when Ernest Thesiger and Boris Karloff are in a scene together. Wow, what the hell? It isn't that long, but it's going to be months.
When worlds collide.
Worlds collide, yeah. When this movie and the other movie kind of come together. And it's obviously to this movie's credit that all of that works perfectly.
Yeah, well, and then when it does come together, it just flies to the end. I mean, it really moves at that point.
Well, we'll see when we cut it minute to minute, maybe not.
No, I think it moves pretty good.
I don't know.
It's a good pace.
We'll see.
All right, we'll find out.
Yeah, listeners, come back next year when we get near the end of this thing.
If there's a next year to come back to.
If there's a next year, that's true. If podcasts are still allowed during the lockdown,
we're actually violating
martial law has been imposed.
We're actually violating the shelter-in-place order by doing this. It's just how much we care about you, the listener.
That's right.
We're willing to risk our very lives by doing this.
Yeah, all right.
Or not, I don't know.
Wait a minute. I like the what it says in the script. I apologize for doing this so often.
No.
The way
it's
the
really
script
good.
is written,
It's
just the notes. The what do you call it?
The stage directions.
The stage directions. He writes, "It is simple to write the words, quote, he comes in, unquote, but this man's entrance into the room is something to make a witch's skin creep."
Yeah.
It's just like
it's really Hurl, but having fun.
Yeah, he's just enjoying
writing the script.
He's getting into the spirit of it.
Or Will, I don't know, but I assume Hurlbutt did the actual writing.
Yes,
because his name is his the name that's on the script.
Right. So I'm assuming I've just been assuming all of that is Hurlbutt.
Yeah, all the little stage directions and things under Whale's guidance, I'm sure.
I suppose that's probably
because this has got like we've referenced a number of times, and I even named an episode after that. It's like having dinner with Jimmy Whale.
That's really true.
So it's got his signature on every shot, every frame.
Well, what a waste of time to write this into the script.
Well, yeah, I mean, no one's going to see it except the cast and crew.
Right.
But it makes for fun reading because most scripts are very dry.
The cast and crew then get the atmosphere that we're shooting for.
Yeah, because most scripts are very dry when you read them. Oh dear.
Well, here we go again.
Called into work?
Yeah, let's hope not. No.
Okay.
Nothing. I just should have that turned off.
You should. Upon his entrance, he says, "Baron Frankenstein, now I believe."
Yeah, and so
he says it like Peter Cushing says it in all of the Hammer films.
I didn't notice that. I've only seen this movie 60 times, and I
just noticed it just now, actually.
Well, that's funny. Yeah. Well, what I've noticed, and what I would noted here, is that it's so bizarre for him to frown as he says it, to sneer as he says it.
Baron.
But, the whole line. He's just like he has complete distaste
disdain for the
and disdain
for,
is probably a
for
better
the title,
word
I think.
for everything that's going on in the whole world. The
Well,
man was born
well,
with
the
that
way
sneer.
he walks through the house when Minnie's leading him there.
Yep.
He's got that same look. He's just looking around. He's got that look like.
And you know, I said Thesiger had that sneer from birth until today.
To now,
The skull still has it.
Yeah.
And that's actually not true, because he does have more range in the Old Dark House. The Old Dark House, he definitely has the sneer.
Yes,
but he doesn't always have
not
it.
Always.
He does have those moments of fear, like you were talking about going up the stairs.
Well, and here he has moments of sort of wicked glee.
Well,
and
there's range here, but it's subtle. And there's range in this minute. Because he's very polite and does smile, but it's such an odd thing to walk in the door and sneer at people and say, Baron, I presume. Like, fuck you.
Yeah, I think you're reading it too harshly.
I think so too, but I don't know.
I don't think it's quite that. I think it's just his bearing gives it that kind of a read. I don't think he's.
Well, the reason I think is because it not just because it comes across that way, but because the very next thing you see is him being a little bit nicer. I can't remember what he says next, but whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
I might have notes on it. I don't remember. But there's a part from the script that's not here that I thought was interesting, where Henry says, and we alluded to this last week, I think. He says, I remember you, of course, Herr Professor, and your lectures vividly. And then he says, this is Septimus Praetorius.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, so that's where the name does come in.
Yeah, so in
the film he says
he just says this is Dr. Praetorius, or this is... he says Professor, maybe.
Professor.
Something like that.
Okay, we've got to backtrack a little bit, because the first thing said in the minute is Baron Frankenstein now. I
totally forgot. This is a huge thing we've been alluding to
we've been
for
talking
weeks,
about
and
for
I just blew past it.
Yes. That's why I had to back you up a little bit.
Sorry.
Which I think is highly significant. Well, he says it earlier because he wants to see Baron Frankenstein. That's skimmed over. This is a big moment when he addresses him.
Yep.
And it's now, I believe, which to me, again, indicates that a certain amount of time, whether it's a couple days, a week, whatever, has passed since the night at the windmill.
I gotta start getting into that mode. I always forget you're going to say that, because to me that's not the significant thing about it. Okay, so you're saying because the Baron died, it would be it's too weird to fathom that it all happened in one night.
There's just a lot going on. And the fact that this guy who now, some of the dialogue that was cut indicates that he's definitely on the fringes of society.
Yeah.
How he would know this that same night, a few hours later, seems improbable.
I think one of the things I was left with... Okay, so...
That's something he says in the next minute also.
So it's funny to talk about these minutes now, because I keep wanting to say something and not sure if we're going to talk about it later. So we'll just talk about it all. Yeah. But one of the things I'm left with is, and we've talked about it on this podcast, it's hard to understand who knows what.
Yeah.
Like, who knows... How many people know that Henry created this monster that has killed people?
Right.
And some of that was a little bit simpler back when the monster wasn't killing so many people. But one of the things that happens in this movie is partly due to the editing. Praetorius just comes across like he knows all kinds of stuff and you don't know why. So one of the things we're going to talk about a lot in this week's episode of Frankenstein Minute is a lot of the stuff that was cut out. And when you go through it and read it all, you learn a lot of stuff, but you still don't quite learn why he knows this. And I think that's actually really effective, because he is a magic monster.
He's sort of the spectral... Yeah,
he's just not even a real
I agree
thing.
with that, but I think it also...
So if 6 weeks had passed, why would he know then? Why would he know anything?
He would get around.
Oh, that's true. The Baron died, then people would know.
There would have been a big funeral. It would have been a big deal that the Baron died and it's been passed on to Henry now. It wouldn't be just...
That's sensible.
Oh, yeah, he's dead. It would be a big deal. I mean, you saw how big the wedding was going to be. The whole town was decked out and prancing around and shoe-plottering, and it was a big thing. So this guy dying, especially under the circumstances, would be a big thing. But I don't think by 2 o'clock that night it would have gotten to somebody of like Praetorius.
Right.
And he had to have time to formulate, I got to go see him now.
Okay.
So it could even just be the next night. I don't know. But some time has to have passed between bringing Henry home all busted up and him being able to stand up and walk around.
Sure. Here's the problem. Now you're starting to convince me. So now all I can think to say is, sure. I guess it really, again, doesn't matter. We're in this crazy world called Bride of Frankenstein. Where anything's
possible. Because in a few minutes we'll see something that really pushes that boundary.
That's for sure.
And also is another divisive moment for some people.
Yep.
I don't know how
I might be one of those people. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
All right.
So then...
remember you, of course, vividly. So
yeah, I remember
vividly,
you, of course, and your lectures vividly.
Vividly, it implies, I don't know if it implies anything sinister. Or
I think it does.
Yes, I think it implies that this is... And we'll find out, obviously, later and in some of the cut dialogue that this is what inspired Henry in the first place.
Yep, definitely. No question about it. Another thing that's interesting to me is that's cut is when Pretorius says, well, first Elizabeth says, something like Henry's been very ill.
Yeah.
Just get lost.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm also a doctor, which is kind of cute. Like, I can care for him.
Yeah.
Like, he's got a great bedside manner.
Yeah, obviously. But well, before that, he talks about being booted out.
Booted.
Booted, my dear Baron, is the word for knowing too much.
Yes, it isn't.
That
isn't that word.
Not, no.
That doesn't. That's nonsensical, but it's perfect.
But I think it's sour grapes on his part.
Yep,
definitely.
That's true.
Which
it's
also
definitely sour grapes.
Brings up a point I made when we were talking about the first film, is that Dr. Pretorius and Professor Waldman worked at the same facility at the same time.
Yeah.
The same time that Henry was a student. Waldman being the more medical, and Pretorius here is introduced as a doctor of philosophy.
Right.
Which I think is very interesting.
Yes. So if we look at how Henry ended up, his influences were Waldman on the, as you say, medical side.
The more physical.
Waldman, the guy with the skulls all over the place.
Can't get enough skulls.
And Pretorius
has none.
His philosophy. And that philosophy is, we're going to go into detail on this.
Yeah. Oh, he says,
he says, I'm also a doctor, Baroness, and in the script, he says, or is it Baroness yet? Which I noted, but...
yeah, I did too.
He will say, or does he? He doesn't say it yet. I think he says it next week. Henry says that he's to be married. So they have not yet gotten married.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an established fact. Maybe I'll mention it again next week.
Yeah.
So we're all clear. They're not married yet.
And I think it's a dig at her on Pretorius's part.
Oh, I see. Well, he certainly looks at her like she is
he looks like
worthless.
Like she smells awful.
yeah, this is
He couldn't be more repelled by her.
Yes, and he uses his demeanor to drive her from the room.
Yeah,
he looks down on her with
that sneer. I mean, it is just the most hateful.
Up.
Yeah, puckered his
awful.
Face and my business is private. He makes really makes a face when he says that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's going to happen, so from the gay subtext point of view, this guy, an old friend of Henry's, a queer-looking old gentleman arrives and looks and sneers Elizabeth out of the room, and so that they can get down to what they need to talk about.
Right.
It's you are not welcome here.
But essentially, he's tempting him away from the quote marriage bed.
This is definitely happening. Yeah. Yes, that's a very specific thing that happens. Absolutely.
And I think you see that also in Frankenstein: The True Story.
Yeah, that's very true.
Where Henry Clerval is insanely jealous of Elizabeth when she shows up.
Yeah, that's
it's part of the really overt gay subtext in that movie.
I thought it was not so overt as some stuff that happens later.
Oh, well, with Polidori?
No, with that's true. It happens again with him too. But I meant the gayest part of that movie, which is when Beautiful arrives.
Oh yeah.
I mean, doesn't he just call him Beautiful?
He does. Oh yeah, that's definitely.
And he is beautiful.
I mean, he is.
Even I could see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Well, that's what, like I said, when I was a kid, 1973, November of '73, didn't mean anything to me.
I suppose.
But then when it came out on DVD, which was the next time I saw it, it was like 1998, something like that.
And it was a little more obvious.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Now I get it.
Even reading the script when I was a kid, because it came out in a little pocket.
That's right.
Pocketbook edition.
Missed it.
Didn't mean anything when you're 8.
So then
when she
Elizabeth leaves.
She all but rolls her eyes as she walks out. Did you notice that?
No.
As she's walking, well, first of all, she kind of almost instinctively backs away from him when he approaches her, and that's called out a little bit in the script, but I think it's made more of in the actual shooting.
Okay.
But as she walks through the front of the shot, and she all but rolls her eyes, like disgusted by this whole thing.
Wow. Well, good on her, because
she should be.
She's been Yes, that's not what I meant, but yes, definitely. But also, good on Valerie, because I've been really hard on her.
Yeah,
and
it's a nice little subtle thing.
One of the few. Good for her to be able to, and we're past.
We're past the worst.
We should have announced a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
I
we're
feel
past.
Like her performance from here on out is just fine.
It's pretty good.
She's just like, as we've said, thankless.
Yeah,
she's not going to fuck up the movie from here on out.
No, it's just the one scene where it's a little much.
Although she does get, actually, the next thing in my notes. She says she walks out the door.
Yeah.
She walks out a door on a set somewhere.
And
says, I do hope he won't upset Henry. It's this really odd little interlude.
Because it's not in the script either.
And it's not in the script. And then we cut back into the room, and Pretorius is suddenly on the other side of the bed.
Yeah, standing right next to him.
It almost looks as if Henry and Septimus have been talking about something, and it was all cut out.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Wouldn't you? I don't know. What else you got?
Nothing. I have that nearly 4 pages of dialogue were cut from the script.
All right. Do you want to give this a shot?
Who do you want to be?
I want to be Pretorius, but I'm not going to do the accent.
Well, I got to brush up on my Colin Clive.
Yeah, you're going to have to do Clive. So get drunk. Waiting until the door's closed. You know something about
Gimlet here that'll.
Oh, it's still before that? I don't know. It's somewhere.
It's just after she leaves.
Okay, so I just did.
Because it cuts from her saying, I do hope he won't upset Henry.
Okay.
To Henry saying, what do you want?
All right, so see where it says here, my business with you is private?
Yeah.
That's in the movie, so we're not doing that.
All right.
Or I could do it. I'll do that, and then you do Henry. Okay, my business with you is private.
You know something about the...
And then it says, he stops without saying the monster, which is cute.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Pretorius.
All right.
About your creature, yes, Henry, I know everything, and I know more even than you, I think.
What? What are you driving at?
The interesting results of your experiments, Herr Baron.
He became Italian all of a sudden.
So I understand, believed to have been destroyed in a fire which consumed the old mill.
Yes. Oh, quickly. Yes. So I believe, and so I trust.
Yes, that is the popular belief.
Have you any reason to think otherwise? What do you mean?
What do you know? He says,
no. Sorry.
Okay, now this is where
I'm so used to him saying, what do you mean, that I just...
What do you mean? Okay, I hesitate to say I know anything in this specific instance, only as I am an investigator myself in these esoteric matters. I might merely offer a general suggestion, Herr Baron. It is possible that you have ventured farther than you think. Those who experiment in the creation of living organisms have been accused of impiety, even of blasphemy. Of course, as you and I, and as all men of learning know, such accusations are only made by the narrow, the bigoted, and superstitious. But the creation of these forms of life involves something more than a temporary disturbance of the regular courses of nature. In fact, I have reason to believe that under some circumstances, one may create something which is, shall I say, immortal? Something which is practically indestructible?
What do you really know? Do you mean that the creature I made may still be living?
Oh, I have no positive legal evidence, but my own experiments have led me to believe that it would be best to be careful. Always to be careful. That is really all I can say at the moment. Here.
It can't be. He was burned.
The clumsiness of your effort is your worst crime. You were my pupil. You shared all my experiments, my secret experiments. Then you, like a fool, went to work by yourself, crudely, unskilled, and fumbled my great discovery.
The experiments were mine as well as yours.
Then you let the thing escape. You let the stupid world know. Your crime is against science.
My crime is against God.
Fiddlesticks. It was I who have had to suffer for this bungling. It was because of you that I have been kicked out of the university. All your crime has been traced back to me, and as a result I am here knocking at your door, and outcast, my ambition ruined.
What do you want? Which is now we're back to the...
Well, we're back to the script. So so when you see Elizabeth's interlude, and then you cut back to Henry, he's saying, what do you want?
Yeah, and it cuts out 4 pages of dialogue.
It looks like they've cut out 4 pages of dialogue. Now, a lot of this is cut out because of Hayes.
Yes, I'm sure all the blasphemy.
All the blasphemy and that kind of stuff.
Your crime is... My crime is against God. Oh, fuck that.
Fiddlesticks.
Yeah, fuck you. Your crime is...
and that's such a brilliant thought, there's so much going on here. We could talk about this episode go on forever.
Yeah.
But that Henry would say, in fact, Pretorius says it first. Your crime is against science. And he says, my crime is against God. And then he says, fiddlesticks. That spells out so much that's not in this movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't show up in the final film.
Well, it couldn't.
Right. But it doesn't not. It also doesn't not appear in the film. You know what I mean? But it adds it adds something to it.
It's not as spelled out or overtly stated as it is in this dialogue that was cut. And I can understand why it was cut. Partially for pacing, but definitely some code violation. But it gives another layer to it, I think, that we're missing. I'm not quite sure how all of Henry's crimes would trace back to Pretorius necessarily.
Yeah, that's an interesting side thing. And
I think that's just him being self-pitying because of where he ended up.
Well, okay, so what I take it to mean is, I see, it was because of you that I've been kicked out of the university. All your crimes have been traced back to me, and as a result, I am here knocking at your door, an outcast, my ambition ruined. So the chronology there is odd. He didn't get kicked out of the university after Maria drowned, right?
So there's another reason why this can't be that same night.
But Henry knew he was kicked
because
out because the way he said it earlier in this minute.
He was professor of philosophy, but
and he looks over like, but I don't think he is anymore. I think I heard something about.
I don't know how to say this. Yeah.
Okay, so then there's more. There's more too, which is it's hard to know where to even start. But one of them is this notion that the monster is immortal because. It becomes
such a thing starting with the next film.
Yeah, this series, as it continues, is about that. That's what he becomes. Yeah. Just an immortal monster. He becomes a monster. Well, I don't know.
He becomes a prop.
He's kind of like a prop. But one of the key things about him is that he is immortal.
He's indestructible, yeah.
And it's unusual to see that spelled out here. Because you could watch this movie and think, well, he was in a burning mill and he fell in the water.
That's how he survived.
Yeah.
He gets shot numerous times and he bleeds and it hurts.
Yeah, that's true.
He shows pain.
His hair gets burnt off.
Yeah. I mean, he shows pain when he gets shot.
Yeah. I guess it almost kind of would cheapen this movie a little bit because it makes the monster more magical.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll see later when we get to Pretorius's house, spoilers. There's some magic in this movie. Yeah.
But I think I've often read and I agree that the monster is like the most human character in the whole film.
In this one?
Yeah. Of all the beings I've encountered, he was the most human.
Yep. That I don't know what. All it occurs to me to think is that's the other famous Part 2 sequel that better than the original.
Star Trek 2 or Electric Boogaloo. Yes.
Yeah. I don't truck with people who don't agree with that one. If you like Frankenstein better than Bride of Frankenstein, that's fine. If you like Star Wars better than Empire, that's fine. If you like Star Trek: The Motion Picture better than Wrath of Khan,
then we got
some issues to work out. Okay, so that's another thing that happened in the cut stuff. Another one is the way they talk about the experiments in the past and the way Henry... Well, okay, so the way it plays out is Pretorius is disgusted by Henry because clearly they were working on this together, and then Henry went off on his own direction and did something that I guess I couldn't even necessarily identify that Pretorius is perturbed about.
Well, he's clumsily and...
Yeah, I guess it was kind of clumsy. I mean, you look what he ended up...
Yeah, I think...
He sewed this dude together.
Pretorius has... Again, it goes back to the gay camp sensibility, but he has a flourish and a flair, artistic bent to what he does.
I like that.
And I think look at this bumblefuck thing that's...
terrorizing the countryside.
Really? Henry? Really?
And then again, that over-the-top part at the end of this film and the way that plays out.
Yeah.
Now, this is more like
here's what
Yeah. Okay, so that's his take. But what's funny then is the way Henry defends himself, because we talked about this a few weeks ago too. The Henry from the first film, or at least the first half of the first film, kind of disappears. He's not proud of his accomplishments. He doesn't speak with any joy. There was nothing good about what happened. There was nothing...
he just assumed forget and move on.
And then there's that moment that again was cut out where he kind of... we talked about
a couple weeks ago, right? Where
it was in my brain and it was so amazing. Well, now we get him here defending himself that he owns this as much as
Yeah,
Pretorius.
as much
You
mine as
might
yours.
expect the Henry that we see in this movie to be like,
Yeah, you take it. That's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't own this, but no, he definitely wants to say, no, wait a minute, it wasn't
Yeah, it
your
wasn't just
experiment.
your experiment.
Yeah. So what were their experiments? One of the problems is we stepping on what we're going to talk about in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
to talk about it too much.
Yeah, because they're two radically different things.
Yeah,
they have the same end goal, which is creating life. And in the next
without
minute,
reckoning upon God.
Yeah, that's a given. But
it's important.
It is important. But in the next minute, it's a little more explicit about the differences in their approach, I think. But it's very subtle, but it's again, not explicit necessarily, but very much implied. The way they phrase a certain thing back and forth shows their difference of opinion or difference of style.
I can't wait.
Well, hopefully...
Are we wrapping? Is it all right? We segueing into next week?
We read a whole scene and everything. Dramatic reading.
We did dramatic reading. Don't forget to...
brush your teeth, wash your hands.
No, not
keep
that.
Your social
we don't
distance.
care if you do any of those things. That's none of my business. What I want you to do is follow us on Instagram.
Sure, why not?
Frankenstein Minute on Instagram.
Do it.